Hello and welcome to Rise of the Data Cloud. Today's episode features an interview with Francois Ajenstat, Chief Product Officer at Tableau. Previously, Francois worked for Microsoft for more than 10 years in product and project management. On this episode, Francois talks about the ins and outs of data visualization, how he approaches data integration at Tableau, and the future of artificial intelligence. It's a really great interview with one of the up-and-coming leaders of the data analytics industry. So please enjoy this interview between Francois Ajenstat, Chief Product Officer at Tableau, and your host, Steve Hamm.
So, Francois, you were at Microsoft for a decade. You were in databases, office products, business intelligence products. Why did you make the big leap to Tableau?
Well, I've been in the data space for a long time now. Actually, even before Microsoft, I was at Cognos, and I just have data in my blood. I get excited about the potential that organizations have with data. And about 10 years ago, almost this year, I got to learn a little bit more about what Tableau was trying to do and really change how people work with data. And I got really excited about being part of the revolution and changing who's able to work with data, how it's being done, and democratize analytics. And that was the reason I joined Microsoft, was to democratize technology. And I had this exciting opportunity to join an incredible team with incredible technology to really change the market and change the world. And it's been almost 10 years and it's been exciting every single day.
Yeah. Now, Microsoft had Visio. How does that compare to Tableau?
Well, Microsoft had a lot of technology. It had analysis services, pivot tables, Access, if you will, SQL Server, reporting services, integration services. They acquired Visio. But Visio was really more of a tool to visualize processes, whether processes are actual business processes, org charts, et cetera. It was more a visualization tool for a business process, while Tableau was using visualization technology to help people understand data. So it's not really a visualization tool. It's using visualization techniques to bring data to life and help people think with data.
So visualization is one of the ways that people understand the data, but Tableau's products and technologies are much deeper than that.
Oh, that's correct. Much broader than that, right? Some people think of Tableau as a visualization tool, and yes, it visualizes data, but we really think it's a visual analytics solution, right? To help people ask questions of data, right? Go deeper in their data, explore it any way they want.
So what is your job as Chief Product Officer?
My job is multifold. I like to say that I am responsible for ensuring that we build the best possible products for our customers. So I do product planning, product strategy, and work very closely with customers to understand what they need to see and help ensure that Tableau builds the right products for our customers.
Now, we talked about visualization for a moment there. You said Tableau is much deeper than visualization. But I do want to talk about that for a minute, because it seems like that is a very important part of data analytics. Why is visualization so important?
Well, first, it's important to consider that our eyes, right? Vision is one of our most important senses, right? We use vision every single day, and it's how we understand the world. And, prior to visualization technology coming into, right, really the mainstream in the BI world, most data was tabular. Most people were looking at data in rows and columns, whether it's in a traditional report or in Excel. And it was really hard for people to understand what that data means. And it's a slow, rigorous, painful process. And so what Tableau did was flip the equation around, use visualization technology to help people understand what the data means, think with data, and really make it easier for people to understand the meaning of the data and enable them to explore that data without limits. And that was really a different approach to the problem. And it changes how people work with their data. It makes data more accessible. It makes it more approachable. It makes it more understandable. And as a result of that, it drives the engagement of the users, which is what we all want to do.
Now, I want to reflect back. Edward Tufte, who was a professor at Yale University, just a few blocks from where I'm talking to you from.
He's a legend.
Yeah, he is the legend of this. He popularized the craft of a visual representation of data. And he was harshly critical of some of the computer programs, the way they use visualization. And one very simple but very powerful example was PowerPoint. So there are different theories about how to use visualization, how to use it most powerfully, most clearly. What are the design principles that underlie Tableau's approach to visualization?
Well, that's actually a really interesting question because, when you think about Tufte, he really was focused on helping people visualize data in the right ways, right? What are the right ways to really help people understand the meaning of data? And there's a lot of abuses of
Mhm.
visualization technologies around, but for us, from a design perspective, it's really about knowing and respecting our users, providing freedom, enabling them to have incremental interaction, but most importantly, immediate feedback so they can keep thinking with their data. It's about making everything direct, safe, and simple. And when you do it in that context, it really helps people think with their data in a very natural way. And so we apply Tufte's techniques automatically in the product. We have best practices in the product so that people are really, staying in the flow of their analysis rather than having to understand how the software works.
I think it might be helpful if you would walk the listener through the experience of using VisQL. This is your core product, I understand. Pick a real world scenario and walk us through it.
Yeah, so VisQL was the original innovation that basically spawned Tableau. It stands for Visual Query Language, and it's everything that happens behind the scenes when people interact with Tableau. You never actually write VisQL. It's not a language you have to learn. It's automatic in the background, but it's really, really fundamental. So when you're using Tableau and you drag and drop anything into the canvas, is what we call the main screen. So let's say I want to look at sales over time. Well, VisQL converts that into the appropriate SQL statement or the appropriate query language that then goes out to the database and gets those results and then draws the pixels on the screen. So never in Tableau do you say, I would like to create a pie chart or a line graph. You just say, I'd like to see this kind of data. And then VisQL converts that appropriately into the database query and into the visualization result. And that's really what makes the experience of Tableau much more natural to use. It enables people to think with their data because we keep people in their flow of analysis rather than the traditional approach, which is really about constructing charts.
Can you give a scenario for us?
Yeah, so classic example, that probably most people have gone through is that you're in Excel and you say, I'd like to create a chart. So you literally go into a chart maker and you choose the chart type that you want and what data applies to it. And then when your chart is created, it's there, it's fixed. But if you want to keep interacting with that, you have to go back to modify the chart. And it's kind of this back and forth approach. VisQL basically throws that whole paradigm out the window. You just continue to interact, and we automatically will visualize the data in the right way. Oh, you're looking at, sales over time. We'll make that a line chart. You can always change it if you want, but we'll do that automatically. You want to look at the geographic distribution of your supply chain. Boom, we visualize that on a map. You're looking at the correlation between sales and profit, automatically a scatter plot.
Mm-hmm.
And so the user doesn't say how they want to visualize it. They just say, I'd like to see this data. And the software takes care of the rest. It's a magical experience. It's really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. It's really, I can't wait. I'm going to use Tableau.
Every day.
Now, your products can be used on data stored on premises or in the cloud. What trends are you seeing in this regard? Are your customers moving their data to the cloud in a big way?
Oh, in a huge way. We believe in choice and flexibility. People have data everywhere. We don't live in a world where there's only one source of data. There is data everywhere on premises, in the cloud, in applications and files. And we want to really make it easy to visualize and analyze all of that data, no matter where it is. But one of the big trends we've been seeing over the last few years that really guides where analytics is deployed is really around data gravity. People are putting their analytics closest to where the data is. So if I have a Oracle database on premises, I'll probably put my analytics on premises. But increasingly, we're seeing that gravity shift to the cloud, right? With Snowflake in particular, more and more of the core data that people need is in the cloud. And so we're seeing this tremendous shift of this on-prem data to the cloud. And as a result, driving more and more of the analytics processing in the cloud. And that's been really, really exciting to see how quickly that's accelerated. Now, there's still a lot of data on premises, but the numbers speak for themselves. The growth rates of cloud data is unlike any other data source that we see out there.
So Tableau accesses data from on-premises databases or from cloud databases or data lakes. Does it work better in the cloud, or is it just kind of the same experience just from a different source?
From a user perspective, it's the same experience, right? Because we don't want users to really have to think about where the data is stored. We want them to think with their data.
Right.
But there's some very, very important attributes of these cloud data sources that make the experience dramatically better. The first is performance. If you want to think with data, you have to be able to stay in that flow of analysis. And every time people have to wait for results to come back, they just stop their analysis and they walk away. And we're seeing that many of these cloud databases are fast. They've got the performance. They can auto scale their back end, right, with the separation of compute and storage, so that you have this incredible performance no matter how much data you're storing. Secondarily is you don't have to make compromises when you're in the cloud. You don't have to limit how much data you're storing or what you're storing because of the constraints of on-prem technology. So we're seeing that in the cloud, people not only get better performance, but they're also analyzing bigger data volumes as a result. And that enables them to make better decisions faster.
Mm-hmm. Now, Tableau and Snowflake became business partners relatively early on, I think in both companies' existence. Can you explain how you hooked up and how you work together and what that does for customers?
Well, I don't want to talk about how we hooked up. That's a little personal.
That's sexy.
That's a little sexy. But it was an amazing meeting that we had. The attributes I mentioned earlier, right? Performance and scale are so critical for Tableau. And when we met the Snowflake team in the early days, I think there was probably less than 40 people in the company at that time. And they were telling us what they were doing, how they were really democratizing database technology to make it accessible to everyone and removing all the constraints that typical databases had. We were just hooked from the get-go. You're telling us, wait, you're going to make storing data easier. You're going to make querying data faster. We're in. Mm-hmm. And so we started with a focus on customers and started working with some key customers together and really launched our connector. And since then, the partnership has flourished. Our customers have grown in success, and really the adoption has skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm. How does the connector work?
Well, so the connector we have is an optimized connector for Snowflake. Right? It's really tuned and designed to get the most out of the Snowflake backend. It is a live connector. So when we connect to Snowflake, we don't replicate the data. We use the full power of the Snowflake database. And every time you drag and drop, we're querying Snowflake and getting results dynamically. It's fast, it's interactive, and enables limitless exploration. But really, we're leveraging SQL technology, but it's optimized for security, for performance, for capabilities.
Yeah. I love scenarios. You can already tell that from my question so far. Can you give an example of how customers using Tableau and Snowflake together can get great results very quickly?
Oh boy, there are so many of those in so many industries. One of the ones I saw early was really around IoT data and customer data. right? We're collecting more and more customer data than ever before. It's coming in from a number of different sources all over the world, whether it's Snowflake or Google Analytics or your website interactions. There's just data coming everywhere. And you don't know how much data that's going to be, how quickly it's going to come in. And so we're seeing people really take that customer data and to get their single source of the truth and loading that into Snowflake, getting real-time results in, and not having to wait for the typical, ETL and database setup that was required in the old days. They're able to get that data to their users as quickly as possible. And we're seeing that in pretty much every single industry. Another example is what we've seen these days with COVID. There's data flowing in about cases all over the world, coming in from all these various places. Being able to start up a Snowflake instance in minutes, starting to flow data into it in a day and getting it out to users the next day, that has enabled public sector agencies, organizations that need access to this data, but it's enabled everyone to really have one place to quickly react to changing events as quickly as possible and getting it out to the key constituents really, really fast.
Yeah. So is Anthony Fauci our hero using Tableau? Do you know?
I cannot comment whether or not they're using Tableau, unfortunately. But they're definitely using data, right? If this crisis has shown us one thing for sure, is that data is so vital to all of our responses. The public sector response, the commercial response, and speed and agility is everything these days. If you don't have those two attributes, you're going to fail. And Snowflake and Tableau really make that winning combination.
Yeah. It's really interesting. The whole concept of computer models, people became accustomed to that around hurricanes, and they understand that models vary and predictions vary. Now they're getting used to hearing about models in connection with all of the aspects of the spread of COVID. And it's almost like, the world is getting a master class in computer modeling and prediction. And it's almost, machine learning is really becoming an essential part of how people understand what's going on in the world. So, I would think a guy who's interested in data analytics all his life, that would be very encouraging for you.
It's been amazing to see how data has really been in the forefront. Every day we see the charts. Every day we see the models with different error bars being shown. But every day, whether you're a citizen looking at the impact of data in your county, in your state, if you're a policymaker, if you are a company trying to figure out how to get back to work, right? Data is that lifeblood that helps people make good decisions. But it's shown the good, right? The importance of data, but it's also shown the bad. A lot of people have used that data in poor ways to visualize data in ways that may create more harm. So not only has data come to the forefront, but it's also brought up other aspects such as ethics of data and privacy that we all have to be thinking about in our organizations and need to be thoughtful about that.
Yeah, you can cherry pick data to make just about any argument, I guess. And if you visualize it, it makes the argument even stronger. So
quite possibly, yes.
There clearly are challenges that society and businesses have to face. We've talked about VisQL a bit, but I know that you have another technology at Tableau that's really important, Live Query Engine. What does that do? How does that fit in? How does that fit with Snowflake?
Well, the Live Query Engine is fundamental to Tableau. Right? A lot of different BI technologies take different approaches. Some force you to replicate the data into their technology. So you have to move all the data, take the time in order to get a great experience. What Tableau has done is created what we call a hybrid data engine, where we can query dynamically live data stored in Snowflake and in other data sources, where there's no data replication. You leverage all the security in the back end, all the compute of the back end, all the storage of the back end. So it's really analytics without limits. We do have this other technology we call Hyper. It's part of our hybrid strategy that we use for slow databases. So if you're connecting to, an old Oracle database that, is not performant, we can help make it performant with Hyper. But we much prefer that data moves into a fast, performant, scalable database like Snowflake so that we don't have to replicate data. We have one place to secure, govern, and manage all of our data.
Right.